Uh, One of them is kind of a bleed over from last week, right? Which is that we got Derrick White back from his injury, and so we're starting to see more and more of like not just him, where Pop is going to put him, but also him just in general of getting his legs, getting his rhythm, starting to find some of the things that some of the good things that we saw from him in the bubble and last year and stuff like that. I feel like we're starting to see more of those kind of things. So I don't know. Let's kind of start there if you guys don't mind. With Derrick White, like what are your overall opinions on just like how he's starting to come into his playing shape?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly like that first game back that we had against Memphis. Like he showed that like yes, it's gonna take a little bit of time. There were still a couple things that like he was a little slow to get to. Even though he's playing smart, like maybe like his mind can be going at the rate that he needs it to be, but his body just isn't catching up just yet because he just hasn't played as much basketball. And I think there was a couple times throughout like this week that you could kind of see that, but eventually like it's all like it looks like it's pretty much just coming together quickly for him, and that like we're gonna have just another high IQ player like just in our rotations that's just gonna make it look even better for us. And so I mean like I think that like maybe we give him like another week of just still kind of like steadily getting back to his pace, but then eventually we're gonna see Derek right back at tip top shape, and he's gonna be honestly it looked like he's playing even better than he's been like since the bubble. So
Yeah,
I'm excited
yeah.
for that.
I agree. He always plays kind of at a real calm pace, but now just man, it feels so much better when you see him play at a calm pace and he's missing. It feels a little bit like he's revving up, but when you see him play at the calm pace and he's hitting shots, then you're like, oh man, okay, good. Like it makes at least me. I was like, you start to see all the different situations that we have had so far where we would have needed him or needed a play like that, and you're like, okay, good. I'm so glad that we're gonna have somebody like this moving forward.
Mhm.
Josh, same thing. What'd you see from Derek this week?
I mean, to me, he hasn't missed a step since the bubble. He came back. You saw what he did in his first game back, and this week he's just proved that I don't think he needed any warm up time at all. I felt like he jumped right back into it. Um, as far as basketball shape, like last night he played, I think like close to 30 minutes, 29 minutes. So maybe Pop lifted that minute restriction already, and what has he played? Three games back. So like, or he's playing really good, and he's only going to get better, as the season goes on. So I mean, I really don't have much to say because he's looked
Yeah,
great to me. You know what I mean?
he has looked great. I will say this is like a real nitpicky thing, but I think maybe just because he had two injuries and they were both to his legs and his feet. It's starting to like I'm noticing more about how much he runs like with his toes into the ground. You know what I mean? Like when
Oh,
he runs,
on his tippy toes.
yeah, he runs. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so
That's a
I'm
kind of a weird observation.
I'm just well. It's when he misses 2 weeks from breaking his toe or whatever. Yeah, maybe that's something that like I just start to
Yeah,
see it differently now. So I'm wondering, when it comes to pro athletes, you always hear when they go out for big injuries and they come back, they're like, I had to totally restructure the way that I walk, right? And it's true. Like it's like when they break down their shooting mechanism all the way down to its basic thing so that they can tweak little parts of it. They do that it's because they get paid millions of dollars to use their body, so they go that deep. So I'm wondering if that is in his future of like somebody being like, hey, we're going to change the way that you land on your feet a little bit so that we can maybe take some impact away from those parts that you've kind of had some trouble with. So I don't know, just something that I've started to see more when I see him run. He does dig those toes into the ground a lot, you know what I mean? And in a collision sport or in a high contact sport with in terms of just like not necessarily bodies but feet on the ground,
yeah.
jumping and running and planting and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Anyways, a little side note. Speaking of Derrick White though, Derrick White's coming back also kind of bled in a little bit to like Lonnie Walker took a step back because of he missed a game this last game. um And so, it again, it just keeps bringing up that we've been rotating around these same kind of topics as the season goes on. We kind of have these themes that keep pushing themselves to the top, right? And so, we're just gonna bring this up again, which is like, should Derrick White? I guess we should ask, like, did you like Derrick White in the starting lineup last night? Do you like what the obviously this is going to be a slightly skewed answer because we don't have Lonnie Walker in there. So, but it's like, do you like what the bench would look like without Derrick? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Does anybody have any opinions on Derrick being in the starting lineup or not?
I'll let Josh go first on this one.
Okay, like obviously, defensively it's great, right? You throw Derrick, you throw DJ out there at the 1 and the 2, and like I know a lot of people want that, but no, this guy should not be starting. Not because he's not capable of starting, but just because he runs that second unit so much better, and that's just what we need. And I feel like last night we started the game off great, like defensively, but like as the game went on, you could see that we missed him in the second unit. Like and that's just, I feel like as much as Jake talks about like Lonnie, he's like, oh well, he should be here because that's where he's optimized, blah 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 blah. Like that's Derrick. Like Derrick, he's a starter. Like he's a starter, but how much does that benefit us to have a starter coming off the bench like that and running your second unit?
Yeah.
Like that's where I feel like he excels in our team. Like whenever he's out there with DJ, like you understand why people want them together on the floor, but I don't think they have to start like that. That's what we need to finish with, in my mind, not starting, because Derrick can get the other guys involved. Like DeMar can get his shot, DJ can get his shot. Like they can get themselves going. Like I feel like Derrick needs to get those other guys going on the bench. Like he gets easy shots for Yak. You know what I mean? Like those pick and rolls, he makes the right pass, but like he could put Patty in a spot. Like those are good things that he does, and he can create his own, when he needs to. So I feel like as nice it is to have him starting, I feel like it's just better with him on the bench.
Yeah. Jake, I think you might be similar.
Yeah. So just to preface this, that like I agree that I think that Derrick should be on the bench, because I've laid out multiple times that if Derrick's on the bench with Lonnie, that like I think that both that 1-2 punch off the bench would just be amazing. I think that Lonnie's spark plug plus Derrick's calm collectedness and being able to bring everybody like involved in the offense all together, I think all of that works really well. But just for argument's sake, just to kind of like bring another idea to the table, I think that another thing that could work is if we kind of ran Derrick in the starting lineup and on the bench, like if we kind of, because the way that I see it, like I think Derrick's a way better off ball player than Lonnie. I think that like he, even though he can involve the offense, he flows in the offense way better than Lonnie does. And so it's like, if Derrick's out there starting, he doesn't have to have the ball in his hand. He doesn't have to be running up and down the court all the time, like how DJ and DeMar might be doing. But he can still start off and still bring a little bit of just like solid off ball, solid IQ plays that Lonnie just can't bring in the starting lineup at the moment. Obviously Lonnie's still learning, still building up, but if we do that, and then finally here comes in the second unit, and instead of DeMar running with the second unit, we have Derrick running with the second unit like that. Derrick's involving the offense, making them all feel better. But then, even though Derrick does have the ball in his hands, it's still a little bit of a like his load that he has to carry isn't as high, because on one side he's the off-ball player who's just kind of like running off screens and getting nice pick passes or seeing an open shot and just taking it. And then on the other hand, he has the ball in his hand, but he also has people who can like also have the ball in their hands to kind of work with them. Like I always feel like Lonnie is the best whenever he has the ball in his hands. So that's definitely going to be taking some touches away from Derrick if they're both running in the 1-2 at the on that bench, right? So it's like if Derrick can run that first quarter and give us a great first quarter push, then one, it brings a little bit of the load off of DeMar. DeMar doesn't have to run those first 8 to 10 minutes in the first quarter, and then it makes him be able to close a little bit better because maybe he's not as gassed at the end of a game, right? And then like if Derrick has the hot hand, I want Derrick closing, obviously. Like I'd love to see a closing lineup of DJ, Derrick, DeMar, and then whoever we have at the 4-5, right? But that's the whole point of us having such an intangible, such a versatile lineup, is that Derrick doesn't have to close all the time if we have a hot hand. And like let's just say Patty's going off for 26, Patty goes off, Patty does his thing. All right, now Patty's in that closing lineup instead of Derrick, just because Patty has the hot hand for the game,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
and there still is room on the floor. Like if let's say Derrick's also having a really good game defensively, well, maybe you slide him in at the 3 at the closing lineup or whatever. And
exactly. And so I don't think I obviously right now, just because like I said, I think in my eyes that he's still kind of picking it back up, still trying to catch up to the NBA like what's the word here? Just like
speed.
Yeah,
Speed,
pretty
yeah.
much, right? Just like getting himself back into the way that we play constantly, right? But once he is back, once he is healthy, fully healthy and ready to go, I feel like that's perfect. I feel like that could work with him to be able to kind of make all of our guys not feel like they have to be in and out all the time, but it's just like a solid set rotation,
Yeah, and I do like the idea. Last week we had talked about DeMar being that bleed guy, right? Who bleeds from the first into the second unit, and we had contemplated or speculated and talked about the idea of having Lonnie Walker take that position and be a bleed guy a little bit. And so now it's cool to now consider, well, what if Derrick White is that bleed guy? You know what I mean? In a different reason. Okay, so I mean, I could see a little bit of that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that means like that he's playing the entire first quarter. You know what I mean? Are we having him sit some minutes? Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what that would look like all the way ironed out, but I could see that happening. I think I am in agreement with you that I think that with y'all that, yeah, if we can have him on the bench, I think that provides our best opportunity to just have good, solid, fundamental basketball starting from our playmaker, DeJounte and Derrick White more often than not. You know what I mean? That's my biggest thing is, yeah, we love to see Derrick and DeJounte together, but I think that they're just stronger. We are stronger when they get a chance to spread that out a little bit. So yeah, I would put him there on the second unit too. And I honestly, it's been kind of crazy to see a little bit of like the Spurs Twitter side of things. That was a pretty active conversation this week too about Lonnie Walker coming to the bench. But I think a lot of people still like we, or specifically like Jake's been kind of talking about Walker being on the bench pretty much all year. But now, even though most people are starting to come around to that, I still think more people, when I listen to the rumblings, it still sounds like more people want Derrick White on the starting unit. But I think all three of us would say that we want him with Lonnie on the bench. Like I don't think it has to be either or. You know what I mean? But I think I don't know, maybe it's because we have so many guards. The want is to have 4 of them out there at the you know what I mean, like on the court, and one big, I guess. And maybe, yeah, right. And it's probably just because we have been going so long with not really giving Trey a lot of minutes, not really giving a lot of our bigs minutes. So you can see ourselves like, well, I guess we're just going to go with like, Vassell or Keldon at the 4 or something like that, right? So I can see where people's heads are at, but at the same time, I think we are going a little bit more traditional. So then I think we talked a little bit about this last night. So let's say well, Josh, would you be okay for having Lonnie and Derrick on the bench?
Like I said, the only way that I'm sitting Lonnie, it's like when you go a whole season watching Bryn and Marco play, like
You're willing to
I,
just let Lonnie
I
struggle on the bench
yeah,
more, yeah,
no,
or
no,
out
no,
on the starting unit.
yeah,
You're waiting, yeah.
because like you talk about Derrick, and I mean, you guys got he's closer to DeMar's age than he is to Lonnie's age. You know what I mean? Like he's way older than those guys.
Mhm.
Like let those guys, like we went through a whole season watching Brent out there. Like I'm willing to give Lonnie a whole season and let him come back next year because he's only going to get better.
Yeah.
He's only going to figure it out.
But like if we're not,
we need to let them figure it out. Like we need to let them figure it out. Like last year we were letting, I don't even know if we were letting Brent figure it out. I don't know what the hell we were doing last year, but we were just losing. You know, like this, we have a winning record. A lot of those negative comments were coming after back-to-back losses where Dylan Brooks like killed DeMar, killed everybody. You know what I mean? He made everybody look stupid. Like, and it wasn't just Lonnie. Like the whole team struggled. Nobody talked about sitting DeMar when that guy was garbage back-to-back games. Obviously, he bounced back two 30-point games, but DeMar played horrible. They made him look horrible.
Yeah,
Memphis
but I don't think I don't think that we're talking about Lonnie Walker being benched as a punishment, but just more of Lonnie Walker being moved into a place like I
was just talking about the rumble. You know how you were saying,
yeah,
It's like everybody was frustrated after back-to-back bad losses.
Well,
like that's and then like I was noticing like on the Twitter, just looking around, like a lot of people were like finding something to
negative against
negative, just because we were coming off back-to-back losses, you know, like they were looking for something, and I feel like we can't do that. We can't get so low on these games because it's like Jake said, like they had our number, like for whatever reason they were killing us like in every single like
and matter of fact, like last week and this week are kind of good reminders about, like, you know, the Spurs always talk about not getting too high and too low and all that kind of stuff, right? Like those are common phrases you hear all the time as a Spurs fan. Well, last week was a great example of that, going from like third or fourth in the West on one night to going exactly, right? Like and I think everybody should keep that in mind. Like if everybody keeps playing the way that they're doing, it's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be a jump from 4 to 12 and 13. You know, probably until about March or April. I would say like as the months go on, you'll start to see little bits of more definition, right? Where you're like, okay, now I can start to see like seeds 4 through like 7 kind of staying in one group, and then like 8, 9, and 10, 11 are now going to start to be that secondary group that are fighting for those spots. Like you'll start to see more of that. And I know on our channel we haven't talked a lot of standings and stuff, but I think that's just because it's so up and down. Like, you know, we can talk about how the Spurs are 4th, but who cares? Tomorrow they'll be 9th, you know, or whatever. So so we'll definitely get a chance to see more of that. And I agree with what you're saying about like we shouldn't be too reactionary, but I don't think that like me or Jake are coming from that point of view of like Lonnie should be on the bench. I think it is more of the same exact way of the way that you're saying like we should have Derrick White be on the bench to maximize. It's like literally, I think we're both saying like literally the exact same thing for Lonnie. Is like,
it's just hard. It's just hard to say to like if Lonnie's gonna be on the bench, somebody's gonna have to be in the starting lineup. And I don't think I wouldn't pick anybody over Lonnie right now, or unless I said Trey. And I don't feel like.
So okay, well, so real quick
from any of those guys to throw them starting either. You know.
Well, okay, so this kind of bleeds into our next kind of